Welcome to the Bill Cartwright Show. Our special guest today is Mr. Eric Gilberg, USF Don extraordinaire. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Nice to be talking with you.
You know, we went to school together, and this is a real rarity because we had kind of a super team, and you were part of that super team with Woodford Boys, James Hardy, myself, and you never really get your acknowledgement for that.
Yeah, Bill, it's funny. I went to USF mostly because you and that group of guys decided to go there that year, because I saw the potential of just what it could be. My brother, you may remember me telling you about this. He played at Stanford. He was 4 years ahead of me. He was in the years with Rich Kelly and those guys.
Right.
And they never really excelled. He had a great college experience, but, they just didn't win a lot of games. It was the years when UCLA was at the top. I think they beat the Walton team one year, but they were always struggling. And I just didn't want that kind of experience. So, you and that group going to USF is what got me to go there, because I wanted to be a top tier team. And I felt that potential was there. I was about to go to St. Mary's. It was pretty close.
Oh boy!
And because I wanted to stay in California, I didn't have offers from UCLA like you, But I decided last minute to go to USF really because of you and those other guys that joined at that time.
Now, who recruited you to USF?
It was actually Gaylord. I was playing in like a city league after my high school season, and I remember I was playing against Mike Quick. Do you remember Mike?
Of course.
From the Dons, and I think Gaylord was there watching, and I remember there was one. I was playing at Martin Luther King gym there in the city, and I think I might have been the only white guy playing, but I remember I blocked his shot on a fast break from, like, certainly not like LeBron James, but a la LeBron James from way behind. And I remember the crowd went crazy because I don't think they've ever seen a white guy do that. And and then Gaylord talked to me after that game, and that's where I first made the connection with Gaylord.
So what made your final decision besides knowing that I was coming or others were coming? Who were your two final choices? You said were USF and St. Mary's?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing is I felt like I grew up in San Francisco. I'm a native San Franciscan, and I guess a bit of a homebody. I had a lot of friends in the city, a girlfriend at the time, all that. And that just all sounded really good to be, right near school. At that time, I got more interested later when I realized I wasn't quite as good as basketball as I thought I was. The curriculum was good for me, as it turned out, but that was more luck. But I think it was a better school for me from a curriculum standpoint.
Your first impressions, not basketball wise, but school wise, when you got to campus, what'd you think?
About the school?
Yes.
I actually never spent much time in the USF campus, even though I grew up in the city. I didn't even know my way around it. And to be honest, I was a little underwhelmed. You have this picture of a school and campus sprawling and students everywhere. And, it's at that time, it's a pretty contained campus.
Yes.
And it was a little bit almost like a really nice high school. Compared to now, now it's just unbelievable. But at that time, I thought it was a little different than I guess what I was expecting. but you know, I liked the feel of the campus. You know, I felt it. It felt like it was you know, a comfortable atmosphere, and that was one other impression I had. It just felt really comfortable. Looking on, so in San Francisco, it was home to me. Felt like home.
Give me your first impressions about our team. What'd you think after we had our first meeting, and talk about our first practice?
Well, God, that's so long ago, Bill. You know,
Oh, I know.
I have some vivid memories of some things. I remember one of our first practices. Someone's probably already talked about this with you. You know, we used to do that run through Golden Gate Park.
That was a nightmare for me.
Down to Ocean Beach, and I remember that we lost you that first day. We went on the run, and everybody finished, and nobody knew where you were. And I think you got lost.
Oh, I didn't get lost. I was that was like 6 miles. 6 miles before practice. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think Winfred Boynes finished like an hour before we started looking for you. You should just had him carry you. He would have done that. But I remember that vividly. I remember, you know, before practice, I met some guys and I played one-on-one against some guys. And my impression then was like, wow, I got a long ways to go. I remember I played against, I forget who it was, but I think I just started one-on-one, and he drove past me and dunked on me, like, you know, first time. And that was eye-opening. But yeah, you know, it was, I didn't, it took me a while to get to know a lot of the team members. There, you know, as things went on, you know, I got a lot to say about that, because one of the most, I think my experience with the basketball players at USF, you know, had a big impression on me. And there's some things, you know, it'd be good to talk to you about. I don't think I've ever talked to you about it in terms of what I took away from that. Because I think it's even relevant to today in terms of how I think about things.
So as that season went on, we're just talking about your first year, because it was a tough season, but we had good players. It was really competitive, guys, along with James Winford, Marlon Redmond was there, Howard Smith was there to beat the tar to me. So it was really a hard year for me. To be able to adjust. Did you feel like that as well? The freshman year was hard.
Yeah, I think the expectations were pretty high. Really disappointing not to get into the NCAA tournament then, because in those days, you know, you had to win your division, and as I recall, Pepperdine ended up
Pepperdine was good. Pepperdine had Dennis Johnson over there, and this guy Marcus Leite, who killed me when I played against him.
Yeah. I think that guy was like 42 years old as a senior in college, but yeah, he was good.
Really good.
And then we went to the NIT, and you played against, I think, was it Cedric Maxwell?
Yeah,
he was really good.
Really good.
So, I mean, on a different level, I think you had the same experience I did, and I think a lot of the players did, is that, you know, going from high school to college, even in those days, it's a huge jump. Huge. And the level of talent, you know, it kind of wakes you up in terms of what's expected. And I think that's why that team rose to another level the next year, because I think they realized that they couldn't just show up and win games.
Can you remember at school, who was some memorable games? Naturally, you know, our dreaded rival, Santa Clara, having never lost to them is that's a great game. But can you remember a game that was really memorable for you?
Wow. There's so many different games, Bill. I got memories of. I'll go through a few. You tell me which one you want to talk about. I have a vivid memory of. I don't know if you remember. We went to Europe and we played some Olympic teams in between our freshman and sophomore year. And I remember us playing the Italians, and when they started throwing garbage and things on the court when they were losing. and they had to stop the game. That was an interesting experience. The whole thing in Europe was interesting experience for us. I remember the Notre Dame game, and I remember, I won't get into names of players, but that's when we had won, like, I think 27 games, 26, 27 games, hadn't lost a game, and it was national TV. I think we had just been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I remember one of our players spitting on the ref after he got a bad call. I also remember warming up there, and every time we tried, the ball would come through the basket during warm-ups, the fans would knock the ball away. I don't know if you remember that. Notre Dame wouldn't even allow us to do our warm-ups normally. So that was a pretty memorable game. I don't remember who was on the Notre Dame team in those days, but that was a pretty good team, and that was our first loss. That year, I think that's when we lost our rating.
I remember that. Remember, we were 29-0.
29-0.
And then we finished the season, unfortunately, 29-2. After losing to Notre Dame and lost Nevada, Las Vegas. Yes, I do remember that. I was hoping for a positive memory.
Oh, is that what you wanted, a positive memory?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, I got some of those too. I do remember when we got, I think, our number one rating. I think we played, I think it was Tennessee. Ernie Grunfeld and Bernard King, right? Weren't they Ernie and Bernie in Tennessee? Am I right about that?
I'm not so sure about that.
I think that was the game, though. Yeah, because I remember one of our guys in our team kept on calling one of them Ernie and the other one Bernie, and they kept on saying, "No, he's Ernie, I'm Bernie." And we all thought that was pretty funny. But I think that was the game we won when we got to the number one ranking, and I think it was in some tournament, and I remember that, and that was pretty exciting because I think I still have a picture of all of us right after we had won that game.
Yeah. Were we in Hawaii when that happened?
Yeah, I got in a couple of those games. I remember there was a guard that I think it was for Houston that was really good. Was it Birdsong?
Yeah, Otis Birdsong.
Yeah, I guarded him for a little bit. That was a disaster.
He was good.
He was really good.
Really good.
Yeah. I don't, maybe was Tennessee in Hawaii? I don't know where we played Tennessee. It was in a tournament of some kind. But that was a fun trip.
Yeah, that may be. Yeah, I do remember that, and I was kind of really amazed that we were now the number one team in the country. It was like stunning. Because wow, we're number one, and it was great, and I think everybody was really proud of that. But I was really surprised.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, can you talk about, because I learned some great lessons at USF, and one of them was just a lesson of being able to understand that I'm not bounded by anything other than my own thoughts, and just by simple conversations and by the students that we had on campus being so international. What are some of the best lessons that you learned at USF?
Yeah. Bill, there's a lot. I guess the first thing I would point to is, my personal experiences. I learned at USF, to not really prejudge people. A lot of people today, and certainly back then, make assumptions about who people are based on where they come from, their backgrounds, what they look like. And, I think I was on the other side of that a little bit. I grew up in San Francisco, not with a wealthy family, but a comfortable family. My dad was a dentist, Depression area parents, who were very conservative on spending and how they spent their money. My mom used to, she didn't finish her popcorn. She put it in the freezer. I mean, we were, but we were comfortable. And, on our team, most of the guys we had didn't come from backgrounds anything like that. you know, and I think I was maybe one of 2 or 3 white guys on the team. And, you know, it was a little bit, it was a mixture for me, a different experience for me. And I came from a totally different set of experiences than the guys I played with. And, you know, a couple stories, I mean, just to give you a sense of that, you'll remember this. I remember we went to this thing in Europe where we played in Europe. We talked about with the coach about going, and one of the players on our team raised his hand and said, well, how long does it take to drive to Europe?
Exactly.
And you know, that's funny, but it, you know, it just gives you a sense of this is a person that comes from a whole different set of experiences than many of us. This is another example, and this is not such a positive example, but you know, I don't remember the Notre Dame game at halftime. That same player who spit on the ref, when he came in, he went over and we sat down during the halftime discussion. And first thing he says, he looked over at me and another white guy on the team. He said, "See, do you see why I hate you white people?" And you know, that was wrong. And the coach stepped in. But, you know, I think I learned from being on the other side of that is that, you know, I could have assumed that that person's a mean, bad person, doesn't want to, or that everybody on the team was like that. And I learned that, you know, you have to give people a chance. You have to give people, you get to get to know somebody. And after I got time to spend time with people like you, but there were others that, you know, even though we came from very different set of experiences, maybe even different opinions about the world, you know, I gotta take you for who you are. And I felt like people like you did that to me. And my college playing experience, I think, really ingrained in me not to jump to conclusions about people based on a set of first impressions. And I can tell you today, that's a huge problem in our society, because everybody assumes based on where you come from, you know, what party you're affiliated with, or how much money you got, everything else about assumes what kind of person you are. And it's so wrong. And I think USF, my experiences there helped me to understand that's not the way to conduct your life.
Yeah, I think that's so right on. And, you know, I was really very fortunate. Well, you know, I grew up in the country, so my neighbors were Filipino. I went to predominantly white school. Um, and, you know, I had really strong parents, so who just wanted you to stand up for yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. And they are isolated to the area that they're in, and we're good, they're bad. So that USF experience just really confirmed what I already knew, that people are people, exactly the same, just grow up in different areas. And yeah, it's just really, really true. Now, when you graduated from USF, what were you thinking? What do you think would be your first job? Did you know what you wanted to do?
I had no idea. It's one other thing that, you know, was helpful for me with my basketball experience is that, you know, I learned pretty quickly I better focus on my studies. You guys used to make fun of me because it's hard even in those days to play sports and try to excel academically. So I was reading all the time at airports and buses, and you guys used to think I was crazy, but you know, I you know, I learned that I better start thinking about the kinds of things I'm interested in doing beyond just playing college basketball. So, you know, I was thinking about law for a long time. I really thought that I was going to just go right from graduating and maybe try to get into law school and practice law. But, you know, I wasn't sure about it when I got towards graduation, and I wasn't ready to make that leap. So I said, I need to find some other thing I can do until I could decide whether that's a path I want to take. And, you know, there was a USF alumnus that offered me a job. You know, I had a business minor. I was a history major, so it isn't like I had, you know, some, you know, pre-med or something like that was going to lead me to something that was specific. And he just gave me a chance. And he said, we have a project we're doing in my company. You know, you can learn, you know, from the ground up. And you're a USF graduate, and I know you've excelled at school, so we're willing to give you a chance. And I mean, that led to a series of things, you know, that I found down the road to the career I had, which turned out to be a great career for me. But, you know, I didn't get that. If I didn't get that kind of chance or that window to open to me by, you know, another USF grad, who knows? I don't know what I would have done exactly. So, you know, I ended up, it was a computer systems related project, and knew nothing about computers, but learned a lot in the first couple of years after I graduated. And that led to some other things. And so that's what I ended up doing initially. And I'm just lucky and you know, I think that's something. I'm actually working with one of the kids now in the program on, you know, how they're going to be thinking about their career post college basketball. And you know, that's why I want to give back to that, because I think that that's really important. It actually needs to be done a lot earlier than it is now, because if you start thinking about like when I did as a graduating senior at USF, it's too late. And you got to start preparing and thinking about things that you might do as other alternatives, you know, as a sophomore or junior. And and I think that's something that people like me, alumni, if you know, can help people with, as opposed to just place them in a job. You know, I think that's really important to help guide them to the things that they might want to do from a career standpoint.
So it going back to that, you felt that it was important to come back and participate with our athletes at USF. What you're doing, I mean, you're working with Tavi, right?
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that you're advising him about?
Well,
are you giving him advice, or what are you telling him exactly?
Well, it's funny, you know, this mentorship program that USF has is a great idea, but there's not many guidelines around it. You know, you just kind of get to know somebody and talk to them, and then you start saying, well, here's some things you could be thinking about. And you know, for him and others, it's you know, the first step is to sort of find things that excite you, things that interest you, you know, and you get to know personally what are the kinds of things you know, in school that you like to study. When you talk to people about what they do for a living, what is it that sounds interesting to you? You know, a lot of people don't start from there when they start thinking about a career. They start with, well, where's the pay, or what jobs are open, or things like that. And I know you eventually got to find a job that's open, but it's really important to start with things that, you know, you feel like you might have some passion for. And so that's the first thing. It's like, what are the kinds of things that interest you? And then the second thing is that, you know, you got to build your resume. And no matter what you've done, you know, you got something you can speak to that can tell the world a little bit about what makes you interesting, what makes you different. You know, what do you excel at? And you know, that's you know, and sort of putting together a resume. A lot of people put down a resume and just list their jobs. I mean, you do more than that. You got to be talking about what you've achieved, what you've accomplished, what did you do, and which way did you excel in each of the things that you list on your resume. And so that's another thing you start to think about doing. It's like, what is it that you know, you've done that would make you look like you are different and provide something that is more valuable than other candidates on a piece of paper. And so that's another step. And then I think it's just networking. You know, a lot of things when you start thinking about career, it's you just got to talk to people. You got to talk to people all the time, even in areas where it isn't necessarily something you think you might want to do someday. It sometimes leads you to something else, or you find something you didn't know. But you got to talk to people about what would they do? What's their work like? How did they start? How did they, decide that they wanted to continue to do? What do they like about it? What don't they like about it? And you keep, and then you say, who else do you know that does something that you found interesting? And you build on that and go talk to other people. So you expand that network to be able to, because a lot of times people just don't know where to start. And the answer is just start talking to people, and talk to people that know other people and ask them a lot of questions. And that's kind of the process that I, like I said, it's not prescribed by USF, but that's kind of what I would do.
Eric, talk about your family, because you did marry a USF girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should have listened as my top takeaways from USF when you were asking about what I got out of the program. I got a wonderful wife. We've been married 45 years. Anne was a nursing student.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, she's from the Valley, like you, near Lodi, not far from Elk Grove.
Smart
asparagus
girl too.
And asparagus farmer and grapes. We have 3 kids. We actually, we lived in Marin for probably 35 years after we went back east for a couple of years for grad school. But after that, and then had kids, we lived in Marin, and we moved back to San Francisco. Ann and I. Just kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. San Francisco's home to me, and I love being back there. And different kind of situations. It's a condo, but we're loving being back in the city. Coronavirus aside, it will get better again. But it's nice because I'm retired now, and we've been doing a lot of traveling, rediscovering the city. We walk and bike everywhere around, and get to see a lot of our kids. They're not too far away. One of my sons is in San Diego now, but we get to see him a lot too. So it's life's fun right now, Bill.
Yeah, and you talked about your granddaughter.
Yeah, I got first granddaughter. I was talking to Bill about that earlier, because I used to talk to people that had grandchildren, and I used to think that they were a little over the top about like the grandchild thing. I mean, it's wonderful, to have a healthy, daughter or son for your daughter or son, and enjoy that experience. But I didn't quite get why it was so over the top. But I've learned now that I have a granddaughter why, and it is because, as you said, Bill, it's a little more freedom than just being a parent. You got, as a grandparent, you can come and go and do whatever you like. Don't worry about the long-term repercussions, really, giving them all the sweets or treats or gifts you want. But also, you get to experience being a parent again. That's the thing that I think is really different about it, is that all the things you remember doing with your own children, going to the zoo, reading books, seeing a new Disney movie, discovering with them something they've never experienced before. You get to do that all over again. And I think with a little more appreciation of the experience as a grandparent. And so we're just having a blast. And we have another grandchild on the way in May. It's been, well, I'm nowhere near you. I mean, how many you have? 6?
I got 7. All boys. So my wife's not happy. She's of course looking for the girl.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, I guess somebody will get a girl in there. But if not, 7 boys, I'm good with that.
Hey, Bill, 5 fingers, 5 toes on each side. That'll be good. Boy or girl. Healthy, happy.
Steve?
I agree with, the importance of having healthy and happy children. I definitely agree with that. Did you expect me to disagree with that? But no, I think as we're wrapping up, I mean, a lot of times I just offer my thoughts. I mean, it was great getting to know you, Eric. Sounds like your USF experience was really amazing for you, and it's great that you're continuing, your association with the school. It's really nice, that Bill has been able to maintain all these friendships. And do you keep in touch with other of your teammates?
Not as many. I'm not sure why, but really mostly been staying in touch with Bill and maybe a couple other people once in a while. There are some events we've done, which has been nice to connect with, some of the former teammates, and I've done that the last few years since Bill's gotten involved and kind of created a community of folks that meet on occasion. So I do enjoy that.
And just one question I would have is just how did your playing career help you in business? Just learning how to be part of a team, to be very competitive. How did that help you?
Well, going back to one of the things I was talking about is I do think that this kind of thing I was talking about, where you try to get to know people and show empathy and understand, try to understand them before you react. I think, especially you get into leadership in business, I think showing empathy is a pretty important thing in a leader, all kinds of leaders. And and the example I gave earlier about my experience at USF, in terms of being able to understand where people come from and show empathy for that, helps you become a better business leader too. But some of the blocking and tackling things, like just, being able to manage a schedule early in my life with academics and travel for college basketball, helped me a lot early on. You had to become very organized and actually disciplined about your time and how you manage your time. That's always important, particularly early in your career. I think that helped me a lot as an experience. And then, I just think that just the understanding that of striving towards excellence would be the other thing. Is I just think that Bill and I were talking about the level that when you come out of high school and go to college, how that steepens, and I think that again, in a working world, for me, understanding that competition is fierce out there, and it requires a real strive for being the best that you can possibly be is also something I took away from USF.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for being on the show. You were outstanding. I've always had a great appreciation for you as a person, as we spent our time together. Remember, we used to have those free throw contests together. Did I ever win one of those? I'm not sure.
I don't know, but that's another great story, Bill, because we used to do bank shots, if you remember, off the free throw line, and there was a game when we had the practice before the game, and we played horse, and we did that, only bank free throw, and every free throw you shot the game was long. I don't know if you remember. And like on the fifth one, the coach came down the bench and said, "You can't play horse with Bill again in any practice session before the game." So yes, we did play a lot of that for a while. Then that got cut off.
Well, I've always had a great appreciation for you, and
Yeah, me too.
I'm just really thrilled you're involved with USF, and because that mentoring, I can remember being in school thinking that I knew a lot and knowing really nothing, and being able to have somebody who's had that experience, I think is just so invaluable to be there, whether you know or not. We all really appreciate you, and just thrilled that you're here willing to participate. So thank you very much for being on the show. You were excellent once again. We're gonna have to get together. You're gonna have to give me some golf lessons. Golf game is shaky, but I'm willing to work.
Okay.